We're back. Javal, how are you doing on this Thursday morning?
I just bought a ticket so I can boo a certain quarterback in person for week one. That quarterback is not Trevor Lawrence, by the way. So the
I
quarterback is
mean,
not Shedeur Sanders, by the way. So I'll let you infer who I'm talking about. No, I mean Nick Mullins is hopefully I don't have to see Nick Mullins. Well, actually, hopefully we get to see Nick Mullins in relief duty after a 41-10 win. But yeah, also, if you don't like the new jerseys, you don't know. Okay, not you don't.
I guess that's what we're starting with. Not
It's
preseason
very
ball.
divisive.
We're going
Can we
uniforms.
just talk about the jersey? I just want to start with the first because I think it's very interesting, for sure. The new jerseys they released, in case you live under a rock and you didn't see, the Jags have new rivalry jerseys that the NFL just does. I think they started it last year with the AFC East, and I don't remember which other division. But yeah, they have new jerseys they wear once a year for division games, and the Jags got one. And I really like these jerseys. I love how I think the teal helmets are really cool because teal helmets, for the most part, I mean, I feel like the helmet choices for the Jags have been you either got the gradient helmets, which kind of ruined my favorite, or second favorite uniforms, or we got like kind of bland basic. I think this uniform is a nice balance of it has chaotic colors, but it's not doing too much. It still has a very like solid font, and I love the stripes on the pants. I love the pants. I think the pants are just the the Jaguar print on the black pants is such a nice touch
It's because
because
people don't know that's what Jaguars look like in the wild if they are black.
yeah.
So it's
And
like
then I
it's
think
perfect.
what makes it nice is that if the pants were yellow and the stripes, it would be more obvious and like too bright. But because
Hmm.
it's black, it's a nice balance of its detail without taking away from it too much. So I love the uniforms. They might be my second favorite uniforms. Just like I know, granted, like this is just a one-time off thing, but if they did a brand new uniform set based on this whole like concept, I think it could work honestly. Like maybe you tinker a little bit, maybe like some of the logo, like the how bright it is and some of the colors, but I think if they, granted, I think it'll definitely more throwback inspired for sure. But if they took a few elements from this, if particularly the black pants having that Jaguar, I think that's such a cool design that should be on pretty much every Jags one because it just adds that little cat flair to it, adding a little nice touch. I know it's a bit of a weird rant for like uniforms, but I just think they're really cool, and I'm glad that we got very unique ones that will stand out. Unless we lose to the Colts and break the streak in those uniforms, in that case, they will be the most cursed uniforms of all time. So.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that later on once we get there in November. But yeah, no, I feel like it's the most Duval County Bold City coded uniforms
It's
of all time
definitely bold.
because you either love it or you hate it,
Underrated.
and that's the most like Duval thing you could possibly ask for. It's the only rivalries uniform where there's three different colors from like top to bottom as well, which is like a very interesting thing I didn't realize. But Jaguars kind of went out there. I do feel like this is a basis to see what the Jacksonville Jaguars can get away with whenever they do that inevitable rebrand in 2028, whenever we have the new stadium. So they're trying to see what kind of is popular, not popular, but what the fan base is positive with and like what's kind of negative with, even though, Baselli's in the process too, because he's our EVP and he kind of is like well known to be like a big fan of the throwbacks, which he knows like
I
90% of the
mean,
fan base
he knows
anyways. Yeah.
everyone's a fan of the throwbacks, so it's
Yeah.
not like it's just him. He's doing it for the fans as well.
I
And then,
guess I don't know if it's like the NBA where you cannot just like, hey, you have to change something if you're gonna rebrand, even if you go back to a more classic look, kind of like what the Orlando Magic, Utah Jazz, those teams kind of did with their uniform rebrands. But I don't know why the NFL is like, yeah, I mean, I know the Bucks they had to change like the sleeve. They gotta kind of have like the same number. Like the Browns, they basically went back to being like the Browns from their initial 2013. Like they rebranded the same year we did with that 2013 uniform release, and everybody fucking hated it. Like, it's very interesting to see what they'll do. I guess we're just a bunch of nerds talking about fashion, right? Everybody's a fashionista now when it comes to critiquing NFL rivalries jerseys. I think it's a cool concept, a different look. We have at
That's
least have a little bit of fun. People who don't like fun, like, what are you doing? It's a
it's
good debate to have in the middle of the preseason.
a lot of
What I will
flair.
say though, the Air Maxes though,
I barely saw the Air Maxes
did you see?
actually.
You
They
got to
I
go
think
look at the Air Maxes. Or should I do a screen share so we can both look at it together?
I think I can pull up a picture, but I saw like briefly
Or if you
Air
go into
Max.
the Nike website and search up Jaguars, you can see all the pictures on there.
Ooh,
Yeah, you
ooh,
see it,
those look nice.
right?
Those look
So
nice.
my favorite detail, so if you go on the Nike website and see a couple pictures that are close up to the shoe, the detailing on the Air Maxes have the Jaguar print on it. If you look at it
Oh,
closer.
yeah. Duval. No, these are you're gonna be a little horny here.
You're
Just a
getting
little
a
bit.
you're getting a half chub while looking at Jaguar shoes. That's
Just a little bit.
crazy. Yeah, just a little bit.
But no, I think that they have a nice going back to uniforms, it's a nice balance of, bold without being too chaotic. Because I think going back to like the 20, like the Bradley era uniforms, in that I think the helmet just made it a little bit too chaotic. I still think the uniforms would have been great if you just gave them a normal helmet. Obviously, well, the gradient helmet was a era in of itself. But yeah, I think even just I'm very excited to see how they look, and I think it'll be a very nice change of pace compared to the most bland white uniforms of all time. So,
I mean, if he
I
did our away jerseys as off-white, I think that'd be pretty sick too.
bro, like I I'm not saying they have to do everything where like one to one and like change a few colors, but I definitely want to take some inspiration from these rivalry ones and then add like maybe like 75% throwback uniforms, 25% add some of the Nike rivalry uniforms, and you could have that as the basis for your rebrand in 2028. But spent a lot of time talking about uniforms and not the players in the uniform.
I know, right?
So
We're like I said,
training
we're
camp is
this is
over
our
officially.
fashionista. This is Duval Fashion Week. Well, who
No,
was the player? Was it Christian Braswell that said we got to do like a photo shoot in these Johns or something like that? Was it
I think
Braswell? Was it it was some defensive player that said we got to do fashion shoot in these Johns.
I remember Jarian was at like Paris for Fashion Week like a couple years back. So
Was it
maybe
Jarian? Yeah,
I
was it?
know he was in Paris and he was like touring. So I love that for him. Hey, a wise man once said, you look good, you feel good. You feel
Hmm.
good, you play good. You play good, you get paid. So
Yeah. I
and
think
now
that's
his son
enough.
will be
That's
coming
enough
to
uniform talk. Yeah, it's, it's capitalism to its finest at the end of the day. They're just trying to sell us more merchandise. Some of it looks pretty good, some of them, eh. But that's in the eyes of the beholder. Nike will do what it does. So we'll see how it goes whenever that game goes around. But let's go to the football side of things. Starters haven't played a single snap in the preseason week 1 and week 2, nor is it going to be the same for week 3.
probably
So
won't play any snaps tonight or tomorrow night for
it's a
Friday.
nice change, but it's probably because all three preseason games have course coincided with joint practices with each of the squads that we've played in the preseason. So after, I guess, 2.5 weeks before tomorrow's final preseason game, how do you feel about the Jaguars before the preseason ends? We make our cuts to the 53-man roster and just kind of go on from there.
Um, I mean, I definitely think comparing because I feel last training camp, it really wasn't like super high expectations. It was just more so curious of how it would look different. Now that we have higher expectations, it's just kind of trying to like I don't want to get too caught up in the hype because some of the training camp, there'll be times in which a player has a great training camp and then they're okay in the regular season, or a player doesn't have a great training camp and they end up playing better. So I've been trying to mostly temper my expectations, but I do think there's a good, mostly good from this training camp. Um, to me, the one big mild concern is, some of the injury stuff where, the offensive line has been pretty banged up, although it has been getting healthier. Cole Van Lanen's coming back. So I think to me the biggest concern was just how the O-line fare. Because I think that's probably the biggest reason we haven't seen the starters, because when your O-line's not fully healthy, you don't want anything to be off. But I also think it is like I think it's important to get some cohesion with some of the backups in case they need to play because with offensive line, they're always going to be one player that gets banged up. So I do appreciate where definitely in this training camp, they've been trying to cross-train the O-line to have players play at different positions, kind of out of necessity, but it definitely helps when a season happens and, somebody's injured. You have to move somebody around to a position they don't play that often. I like training camp, they've had a little bit more time. So I didn't mean to focus mainly on the O-line, but I feel like that's probably been like the biggest story, which has been the O-line injuries being banged up and how it's looking, especially because I mean, heck, Anton's gonna play left tackle, it seems. Like just which I love that for Anton because left tackles will get paid more money than right tackles. So I think I'm a little bit surprised that I guess because of the Cole Van Landen injury, they knew they had to put Anton at tackle in case they had to. So
I mean,
we'll see who starts week one along the offensive line. If I know if- do like Shipley, he's been like trying to state everything. So what Chip was saying, like the offensive line as what he expects to see is Anton at left tackle, Pregnon at left guard, which I think has been a pleasant surprise at camp. I wasn't complaining for him to take the starting spot, but I also wasn't expecting him to start the moment they drafted him. So seeing him, with the injuries, step up and play pretty solid, all things considered, starting from that Saints game and carrying that momentum over. Pregnon's getting some good playing time. Hainsey at center, who is solid, even though he had that very hilarious rep versus Vita Vea, where
but
he
that's
literally picked.
that's one on one. That's gonna be
I
most
mean, yeah,
offensive linemen
like
against Vita
it's
Vea.
a one-on-one rep. Like
And
I,
that's
I
his
don't
former the fact his former teammate too is pretty hilarious. Being like, God damn, okay.
like it is a one-on-one rep, and I feel one-on-one is pretty much always gonna favor the defensive line
Yeah.
unless you're really gonna know what you're doing, just because you're on an island. So it's very easy for the player who knows what he. It's the same with like one-on-one on a corner receiver battles, where obviously it's a lot easier for the wide receiver to win a one-on-one when you have nothing else around you, no safety help over like it's just one-on-one compared to uh, in an actual game where you have to worry about like, you can get open quick, but if the quarterback dies, it doesn't matter.
Hmm.
So, I'm not too worried. Hainsey at center, he had a pretty good year last year. He's been pretty healthy this year in training camp, so just keep it up. And then X Factor, right guard, which I guess to me, I was a little bit surprised that they moved Pregnon. Well, they kept Pregnon at left guard and moved Ezra to right guard, but maybe they want to keep the rookie at his more natural position and move the veteran around a little bit more. And from what I've heard, Ezra's had a really good camp too. So shout out to X Factor. Um, and then probably Cole Van Lannon at right tackle, but we shall see how he fares because he's still been a little obviously coming off that knee, hasn't had that much time to play. So I to me it really just that's the biggest question or how healthy is the offensive line? Because, I'm glad that they were able to cross-train guys for depth, but with the Macari injury now, probably your best six man in terms of a guy who can play a lot of positions. We don't know when Macari's coming back. So your depth offensive lineman, I mean, you've got Walker Little, who, can play left tackle, can play some guard. This looked, I think he's probably had a solid camp from what I've heard. Nothing too crazy, but he might play some guard, right guard. He could play some of that too. Wyatt Milam, who I feel like he's kind of had a disappointing camp. Nothing like too terrible, but he hasn't looked. I feel he had some flashes last season, so I was hoping that would carry over. it hasn't so far, but I still think he has potential to just be at least like a power player at guard. We'll see with Milam. I don't know if you heard, John, but they traded for somebody to play offensive line. Used to play for another football team might be familiar with. I guess we'll just rip that Band-Aid off because yeah, the Jags traded for probably one of the most highlighted players on the offensive line, but he's
Gonna make the
not
team.
more like a low light player than a highlight player, I'll say.
I will say this in defense of Daniel Fish Fillet that that no, it's so funny because me and one of my work buddies were talking about was legitimately shitting on him the day before the Jags traded for him. I was like, how do we bring this man up? And then he comes like to Jacksonville the next day. I thought it was pretty hilarious. While I was in the middle of sitting in that joint practice with the Panthers, I was like, how did this happen? Same day. So but I feel like in his defense, if you look at his like penalty holding stats, it's legit the same exact, if not a little bit slightly better than Patrick McCarry last season, which is very hilarious as they both came from Baltimore. And they both kind of play the similar roles, like you can put them anywhere on the offensive line besides center, and
I
they
wouldn't
will
say
be okay.
anywhere. He's like strictly a guard. He does not have the feet space to play tackle, or probably the lower, like the lateral agility to play center. But
Yeah. But like, he's kind of like a flexible guy where he has starting minutes. He doesn't have to be in the shackles of a hardball system, so maybe he's okay. But you'd hope that, like you said, you hope that we don't ever have to play him. But he's another big body with starting experience, and it's fine, I feel like.
yeah, it's hopefully once again he never sees the field because after watching a lot of his lowlights in Baltimore, I feel he's just very slow to react. And if you hesitate, you're beat in football, especially. Like just, I mean, any sport, anytime you hesitate, you're going really fast. If you don't know what you're doing without thinking, you're going to make a mistake, which is kind of what when we're talking off about the Fulham game, and I was talking complaining about the center backs, how he didn't react fast enough. Kind of that same thing where whatever sport you play, if you don't move fast enough, you get beat. So, hopefully the coaching staff could get something out of him, at least at least as a run blocker, but he wasn't that great as a run blocker because sometimes he'd be too slow to block the player. So, we'll see, but hopefully he's just a backup that never sees the field because he had some very bad moments in Baltimore where his lowlights were just TikTok worthy lowlights. So hopefully he's fine. We'll have to see him play. And then even just more to the backup O line. I feel like Monheim had a pretty solid camp, nothing too crazy, but he had some
hmm
good moments last year as the backup to Hainsey. So, I feel that the offensive line, it's all right. I still want to see how it looks with, Pregnon has to get more time playing because even though he looks good as a rookie, he's still a rookie. He's going to have welcome to the NFL moments. So I want to see how Pregnon does. I mean, Ezra at
So you're
right
saying that
guard.
that first snap where Mason Graham just bodies Emmanuel Pregnant, you're gonna want to kill yourself in the stadium week 1? Is that what you're telling me right now?
Um, at least, well, maybe I can push some agendas then. But because to me, the main question parts with training camp health wise has just been the O line and then a little bit of the receiver room because Jacoby had a cast on his hand. Parker missed a little bit of time. Now Brian Thomas, he injured his shoulder on a touchdown catch, which I mean I'm glad he scored. So I'm like, yeah, he still can get deep. It's just is his shoulder gonna be okay? So that to me is also another concern for week 1, getting all the receivers healthy because if you can fill out like if Cole Van Lanen plays, I think the offensive line should be like pretty good. I don't even hate Walker. I know some people like really hate Walker a little now. I still think he's fine. Like I don't,
He's a very expensive swing tackle, and that's primarily the reason why people hate him because he's like paying
yeah.
16 million a year.
I
It's
mean,
kind of like. be on the roster. But it's also you rather have a guy that has a lot of game time in his pocket than not.
Considering we ended up trading for Daniel Falala, I think it's not unreasonable. If they need to trade Walker, you could definitely trade him to some team and see he can be a starter. I'm not saying they should, but you can definitely convince yourself that if they need to trade him, I think any team in the league would at least take like look at the contract and see can they fit it in because he's a starting tackle with experience that can, play left tackle, play open right tackle, move around. So we'll see when it comes to how the O-line shakes out. I'm just glad they don't have to face Myles Garrett week one. So, I mean, Jerry Verse is no slouch, but it's not Myles Garrett week one. So,
And yeah, we'll get closer to talking about the Browns when we get there. I also did want to talk about the one thing I did notice that was also brought up. And now it's only preseason, but we'll talk about a little preseason game action. Uh, when it came to the defense, I know there's nobody significant playing on defense. A lot of the backup guys, none of them got a pass breakup in that game against Carolina. And I know it's just like a random thing to point out, but it's just a question of, is it just basic defenses that they run in the preseason to where, obviously they're not going to show any exotic blitzes, exotic packages, whatever, but because of all the injuries that happened to the secondary last year, I wonder how it'll go for the final game of the preseason and beyond. I mean, because Jerry and Jones, hopefully, he's the one guy that didn't get hurt, but Jordan Lewis broke his leg, or, he had a leg injury to end last year. Travis Hunter's just coming back from a knee injury. We don't know what the safety room's gonna look like. Like Ransaw hasn't been looking too good,
I feel
unfortunately,
like he's been okay. Like, he hasn't had elite moments,
but
but
he's never really truly played safety. Like they kind of moved him from
yeah.
slot corner to like try to learn how to play safety on the fly because they feel like his trades could go really well back there. But guys like Rayon Lane more comfortable back there. Um, but we'll see how it goes. That's just something that I noticed from the first half when I was there at the stadium on Friday, how the defense was going to get pushed around by well, they played against the first and second team offenses in that first half. Kenny Pickett and Bryce Young had significant snaps, but it's just interesting to see how that dynamic works sometimes whenever you're there.
Yeah, I mean, even going back to secondary as a whole, I feel it's probably had still a mostly good camp. I mean, Buster had a pick six, I believe, yesterday versus either Tuesday or yesterday versus Tampa. Antonio's had some pass breakups. I think he's probably more in line to, especially with that contract year, he wants to try to make another stand for himself. I mean, Travis has mostly played at corner and camp, which is really, I mean, I don't think he'll play wide receiver in the games, but because training camp and you want to make sure he gets fully acclimated, he's been mostly playing corner. So I am very excited to see Travis at corner, how he'll look. Buster coming off another good year, just being like another solid zone guy. I don't expect Buster to be like a lockdown man-to-man guy every single time, but I think he can still be a good cornerback, especially off getting paid. And then the number, I feel like with the number changes too, Cincinnati will just look different because Buster Brown's wearing one, Antonio's wearing six, Jarian's wearing four. So I'm just gonna be looking at the secondary and like I have to readjust to the numbers.
No,
But
yeah, no, I'm gonna be so confused week one. I'm gonna be we've talked about this like every pod, I feel like too. And I'm still very confused with some of the numbers still. But is it Jerry and his number four? Number
yeah,
five is LeQuint. Number one is Buster. I need number one's Buster.
yeah, five is LeQuint now.
Number six is who now?
Antonio, because he was
Oh yeah, it is
26.
Antonio. Yeah, Antonio Johnson. That's right. Because it was Clay Brooks last year, and he was ass. So
No, he wasn't. No, Chris Claybrooks and
was he
our
not?
you Lord and Savior 2026. John, get with the times.
No, but who was number six? I
It
don't
was
remember who's.
Darnell
Oh, it
Savage,
was
I'm pretty
Darnell
sure.
Savage last. Okay, it was a terrible secondary player. My bad. It
I
was
was
just
like,
a bad.
Chris Claybrooks, that
Not
that's a
Chris
name I haven't
Claybrooks.
heard in
Oh, I
ages.
was Greg Newsome. My bad. It was also
Oh, it
Greg
was
Newsome.
Newsome.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
sorry.
Newsom.
All we're getting
Okay,
all we
so
got three different secondary players that we mentioned that are no longer on the team.
okay, I mean, in my defense, at least Savage was closer to the timeline than Cliff Clay.
Chris Claybrooks. You know,
How
I
did
have a
you
work.
think of that? How
So
does your brain
there's an Apple Store
comprehend?
story with Chris Claybrooks that I have to tell you, not on the podcast, not on camera. We're gonna give it to Chris Claybrooks. But he's a work topic at Apple Store St. John's Town Center. So, you know. If he ever
I
watches this, I'm sorry for airing out your business, buddy, but we
He's
love you,
definitely
Chris.
watching this now, you know for a fact.
Yeah, but yeah, he's a favorite there. I'll just say that much. But other than that, I mean, any surprise cuts you think they're gonna happen for the final 53 man roster? I don't think there'd be like would there be like a name where you'd be upset? Like, the defensive Brian Thomas Jr. is getting a lot of popularity on social media right now.
It would be so
Joey
funny.
Aguilar has a lot of popularity right now on Jags Twitter. But I feel like he's a practice squad quarterback. There's no way they're cutting Nick Mullins. Carter
Yeah, they
Bradley, I'm sorry, buddy. I know you grew up along with us. You were on that practice field for some of the dog shit years because of your dad as head coach, but you don't have the arm
Bradley
talent
and
to be doing.
Jacksonville just don't mesh together.
I know Jacksonville quarterbacks. I feel like, or quarterbacks from Jacksonville, Florida. Has there been a good one yet? I don't know if there has been.
Just is that good always on the beach? I
Fair
love you,
enough.
Zach, if you when you see this. But trying to think of what other like just going back to all the Shipley articles I read.
Any
Shout out Ship.
linebackers that you see if they were
Name, I
cut?
mean,
Linebacker, I feel like is kind of the most concern, but I don't feel like they're gonna be playing a lot of linebackers outside of
yeah, I mean,
Aluakin,
Lillican,
Ventrell, and Combs.
Lillican, Ventrell, and Branson Combs in terms of the main linebackers. I don't think they carry a four. I mean, like I feel like I guess
No,
Jelani
Yasir Abdullah.
Tavai,
Yeah,
maybe. I don't.
and
I'm just
Yasir Abdullah
because
probably because of the
if you
special teams
count
play. I feel like Abdullah is like invaluable for the special teams side of things.
because if you're counting strong side linebackers, where it's gonna be Gardeck, he'll probably have one backup, which is probably Yasir Abdullah because I don't think Jalen McLeod's done that enough to really separate
Yeah, I would
himself from.
say, and he's never on the field. I feel like
Yeah,
he's like one of
he
those.
hasn't really been
It's like
healthy.
James. I don't know if this is the deep cut to you because I know you just were a fan right after he was on the road. It feels like James Sample to me, where he was
James Stan, oh my gosh,
like
that's
a
a name.
fourth round pick who was never on the field for us. Like he did not exist. Raquel Armstead, another like old draft pick I remember was like, damn, I hope he's gonna be good. He just
I still
never saw
remember
the field.
Raquel for catching that touchdown from Minshew in the Broncos game.
That's crazy. You just remember that one.
I remember I remember that for sure. But yeah, I guess because I feel a lot of the cuts they would probably do are probably just gonna get IR'd. Like Jack Kaiser is probably gonna be on IR because he hasn't played since the first week of camp, and yeah, Parker Hughes is also gonna be on IR. So like they've just kind of been unlucky at linebackers with the injuries, which granted is probably the position they care about the least. So I'm not saying it's on purpose or they're happy, but at least it's not a position they're like, not a position they care about that much, clearly. And it's two of their depth guys. So, I feel like it won't be that much of a surprise because if you want to go over the roster, I feel the O line is mostly set. We know who the starters are going to be, the key depth guys they want.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
wide
it's so
receiver.
crazy how the roster is set by like who didn't play. Oh, you're making the roster. You're making the roster. You're making the roster. It's like whoever we didn't see, we know is like guaranteed to be like on there, barring
Yeah,
special
and
teams
even
because we only had the three special teamers on the roster. No,
yeah,
no.
I guess for like special teams will probably be the biggest difference because I feel like wide receiver, barring I guess special teams like shakeup, probably both Josh Cameron and Phil Puka make the roster. Did I say it
Phil
right?
Puka, yeah, there you go. CJ Williams is Phil Puka. I love that. You got it correct. That you got it, Javal. That's Phil Puka. If y'all don't
But
know, that is Phil Ampuka.
I think they probably carry those five while also having Travis. Like, I would be very surprised if Tim Jones or Trammell are not just practice squad guys, especially because
They
all
just
things cons
they just stick around like
all things
play.
considered, I don't think teams are like dying to
I,
sign those
I
guys. Like
feel
if
like yeah, I feel like Tim Jones and Austin Trammell have survived like 3 or 4 different coaching regimes by now. It's actually ridiculous how they've
bro,
managed to stay this entire time.
I like Trammell still being on the roster is just funny to me. Like Tim Jones, I get because
The
good
special
special teams
teams,
guy
yeah,
and
the
blocker.
blocker, yeah.
Is is Trammell like a good like I'm not saying he's bad on special teams, but
They
I
just
don't.
like his slot work apparently, quote unquote. He had that really bad drop in the Colts game last year, and I was like, buddy, what the fuck? Trevor did like some like all-star shit, and then he decides to drop the pass. I was like, all right, Austin Trammell, what the fuck
I
is wrong with you, buddy?
see. I feel like barring that Kim Jones just being a special team, the guy they can't let go, it's probably gonna be those five. I mean, the tight end room. I guess a mild surprise compared to next year. I think Quentin Morris is probably another practice squad guy
Yeah, I think
because
they're not
I
gonna
think they
keep
want to
Quentin
try to keep
Morris.
Cozy, which I thought Cozy would be the practice squatter, and
He's
but
too
to
valuable
me,
for the red zone snaps, I feel like. They want to use
which
him red zone wise, so
yeah, I'll be very curious to see how
I
that
also
looks.
find it interesting that Borkature is getting better closer to the regular season too. He's been catching more touchdowns in
Yeah,
practice too
I mean,
recently.
I'm not expecting him to have a crazy productive year, but more so just add a little bit as a blocker and enough as a red zone guy, and that's like solid. So I feel like tight ends are going to carry three running backs. They're going to carry three, four. I guess maybe that because from
Depends
watching
if
that preseason
LeQuint.
game,
It depends also if LeQuint Allen can
yeah, if the Quinn's
stay.
healthy.
Yeah, if they think he needs to start on IR, then it'll be 4. But I could still see them obviously carry 3.
Because it really just depends who's going to be the pass blocker for them. Because I don't think they'd give that to Jamari Taylor as a UDFA who wasn't really known for that, but he also had some flashes. But we the Unk or new
Amir
award, the Unk.
Abdullah, yeah,
I need to
Unk of
give
the
the
year.
Unk still got it award to Amir Abdullah. That's gonna be my new award
That juke
categories.
move he had from like the back of our own
Dude,
end zone. I was
if
like,
if he caught that touchdown, that would have been like sealed it. Which I still think he probably has a good chance making the roster, but Amir Abdullah, the Unk, still got it award because he
I was
didn't
like,
look too bad.
you're 45 years old and you're still got that speed in the backfield. That's great. In running back years, you're basically 45 years old. What's Amir
I
Abdullah
mean,
back
yeah, you're
there?
not wrong.
But shout out to Amir Abdullah, Nebraska legend. Shout out to
No,
you.
shout out Amir Abdullah for real because the fact that being in the NFL for 12 years as a running back is legitimately like even if you're not
Yeah.
playing like a superstar level, just
Amir
getting on a
Abdullah, you have a
roster.
fan in the Jagged Edge show. That might be our Jagged Edge show like player
And
for
he's
the
going to
season.
fumble the first time he touches the ball in game.
After
We're
we
all
gave
going to
him
shame
the
him
Jagged Edge seal of approval. That's our like we have like a lot of hatred spread among, but like just unequivocal love. We don't spread out to like the unheralded players. Like we hate a lot of obscure players. Like Andrew, was it Andrew Wingard? Whenever he was on this team, we were giving him dog shit. We gotta like switch it up and have like a player that we love no matter what, even if he's
But
not
you
gonna
know
have
what's
too
going to
much of a
happen
significant
now?
role.
We're going to give a player love, and they're going to immediately play terrible, and we're going to have to slander
No,
them. And then
no,
they play.
no. This is the Liam Cohen era. That's not gonna
Okay,
happen.
I guess
This
yeah.
is the Gladstone and Cohen era. That's not
We're all
happening.
Gladstoners over here.
Yeah, we are Gladstoners. And we
We're
have a
glad we're
Coner.
glad stoners for sure.
Yeah, we're Gladstoners and we got a Coner for every Oh man. I think we need to wrap it up with that. I don't think we could get any better from that.
Hey,
So,
Tony and my Baselli to like EVP.
shout out to Tony Khan, all in this weekend, the biggest show of the year. Uh, Hopefully that's a great show. A lot of debuts, a lot of hopefully great wrestling
I
for
need to hear
AEW's version.
Osprey. I need to hear Osprey again.
Oh,
I
he's in
miss
the main
Osprey
event
as
against Kenny Omega. That's
Osprey, Osprey. maybe.
I
I
mean,
don't know
we're
which
back in
one.
Orlando for pay-per-view in October, so you know I got
But
you that day.
yeah, I guess going back to the roster, and especially I mean, the offense I feel is like mostly set. Probably be two quarterbacks, five receivers, not including Travis, so six receivers basically. You got three running backs, maybe four, depending on what happens with the Quinn and his status. Offensive line, they're going to carry 10. So, I mean, even going to the defense now for corners, they have Travis, Buster, Jordan Lewis, Jarian Jones. That's four. I think Jabbar Muhammad makes it as cornerback
Oh no,
five.
he's
Who
gonna make it
also,
over Braswell.
can we talk about like how funny that Jabbar Muhammad pass breakup was versus the Saints? Because it reminded me so much of the pass breakup Monteric had versus Chris
That we were
Olave on
there
fourth
for.
down. We were
We
there
were
watching that
there.
game live,
Did we
which is
almost
why I
want to
remember
kill
that.
ourselves? Yeah, but was it still worth it at the end? Yeah.
And it's just so funny because like same end zone, same uniforms, fourth down, pass breakup in the corner of the end zone to seal the game. And Malvin Buster was like his second year, so he wasn't
He had
really
some,
like
but like he got toasted some, but then he made that play at the very end because this was like in relief for God, somebody was hurt, so he had to play starting minutes, and we're
I'm
just
trying to
like,
think who would have been it would have still been Tyson.
I think
Um
Tyson was hurt that game. I think
maybe
that's why.
probably either Tyson or Darius Williams, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think it was
We're just
Tyson
missing
that
off
was
so
hurt.
many secondary names of players who played. James Sample, Chris Claybrook.
Greg Newsome. I can't believe I keep mistaking Greg Newsome for Chris Claybrooks in our year in our
One of the
Lord's
funniest guys.
2026. You can tell I haven't eaten breakfast yet.
I haven't
This
I
I
didn't
haven't
even
ate
have
anything.
my bagels. I'm too busy laughing at Chris
Chris
Claybrook.
Claybrook. That's our all-time favorite Jaguar to never play a significant role. That's my all-time favorite Jaguar now.
Oh,
That never play a significant role. We had our Cappies. We had our Tim Joneses. For me, it's Chris Claybrook. Shout out special teamer extraordinaire Chris Claybrooks.
he wasn't even that good on special teams,
He
but hey,
wasn't. He was good. He
he
had
was
that one good return in Memphis. I remember seeing that highlight. I was like, all right, for a seventh round pick, you're good in my books, buddy.
okay, but yeah, for corners, they'll probably carry five, so I don't think it'll be a huge shock, but Braswell is a decent depth guy. This is probably his last year because maybe he goes to practice squad, but yeah, probably they carry five corners. Now for safeties, it's going to be Antonio, Eric Murray starting. And then honestly, safety three might be Husky now. I feel like Jalen Husky's had a kind of solid camp. He's probably had a few more flashes than Ransaw.
Yeah.
So I think for both guys, I feel like the theme with the 2024 draft is the guys they've drafted at the same positions compare. I mean, not 2024. My brain is scrambled from the Claybrooks, but the guys they drafted from this past year have looked a little better than the guys they drafted from a year ago, which I don't know if that's good or bad, but even like Pregnon versus Milam, where they're both competing for guard spots. And Milam played tackle at, I think Pregnon was probably a bit of a higher recruit, which they both won the third round. So it's kind of easy to compare them. But Pregnon's probably a better like draft prospect. But even the fact that Pregnon's probably going to be starting while Milam, had reps, but didn't really seize the role. Kind of the same with Caleb Ransaw, who won the third round last year, versus Jalen Husky, who was the last pick of the third round this year. And they're both converted corners. They haven't played that much safety, but Huskies looked a little bit more natural, has a couple pass breakups. I still think Ransaw makes the roster and he'll definitely play.
I think
I'm
he'll be
just
the fifth guy. I don't think he's going to be active because I do feel like Rayon Lane has more of a role in special teams than Ransaw. But since he took such an early pick on Caleb
I'm not
Ransaw, yeah,
I mean
not really
they don't
early. They're both late third round picks. I guess you're right.
They
So.
don't force any player. I think even common to how they treated Diame and how they gave him a contract, but once it wasn't working, they switched things up. I don't think they're gonna give a player the role due to their perceived
Yeah.
contract or draft status. They're going to
Yeah.
make every player earn it. So, we'll see because maybe Ransaw's just better to be more of a, specifically a nickel because that's what he played more slot corner instead of like roaming on the back end and Husky can do a little more of that. I don't really know how the safety room will look other than
The five
besides Andy,
guys.
they're going
Yeah.
to carry five guys. It's going to be Antonio and Eric Murray, and then Rayon, who I think, for when he played last year was fine. Nothing too crazy. He had that,
He never really like flashed, but I mean he flashed at special teams a lot. But when it came to the defensive snaps, he never really flashed, but he also never allowed any big plays, which is I guess
yeah.
what you could kind of ask for a safety.
And even I think in when I was watching the Panthers game, he had a touchdown saving tackle on that Jimmy Horn reverse. That would have been a touchdown regardless. Probably would have been like 50 yarder. So even just being in the right spot and saving a touchdown, like that's solid. So, Rayon's gonna play. I think defensive line is where it gets very interesting because obviously Josh Hines Allen, Trayvon Walker, that's two guys for edge depth. If we're counting Gardeck as an edge, which I kind of am because I mean, he'll play strong side linebacker, but you still let, oh, I still love that dance. Hold on.
Oh, he's gonna do it.
But if we're counting Gardeck as an edge, which think he is as a Sam side linebacker, you're still contain like you're focused more on playing downhill than in coverage. So you count Gardeck, that's three. You share Abdullah, who's like a backup special teamer, like strong side linebacker. So he's not gonna rush the passer a lot, but you can kind of throw him in there. Then you also have, and they drafted Wesley Williams, who they like. I think he's been fine, but also because he's not the flashiest pass rusher and more of an edge setter, he's not really going to show off that much value in training camp and pre. He's not going to like pop that much, but he's more of a guy who like when he plays well, the team plays better.
Mhm.
So, I think he'll make the roster and they definitely like him. He just won't see that many snaps. I know Durfee's had a good chunk of flashes. So to me, I think the battle will probably be between Durfee and Brian Thomas Jr. It's so funny, like saying Brian with the Y. How are we gonna differentiate it? Or just say Brian with the Y.
Yeah,
Y
I
and
just say
Thomas. It's gonna be Y and Thomas Jr.
defense Thomas Jr. and offense Thomas Jr.
Thomas Jr. So probably between the other BTJ and Durfee for that last spot because I think probably the pure best like defensive end, defensive end three. It probably started off as Strigo and now it's BJ Mr. Verde.
Oh yeah, BJ Verde.
So even just seeing how BJ Green's definitely taking more of a step up, which I'm very curious because obviously, you want to see the edge guys play well, but you want to really see them play well versus other players, not just your own backup lineman, because then like yeah, if your backup line sucks, then like yeah. So, even when he's played versus the ones, I think BJ's probably had some good snaps. So yeah, the defensive the edge depth will be very tricky, and even just the interior. They have Armstead, they have Hamilton, they like Matt Dickerson a lot, who still very funny that a guy who kind of came up out of literally nowhere, and the staff
He's
really
been
likes him.
good, but it's like fair enough, right? So it's like
He's been fine. And then I know Regis has had a bit of a hamstring injury. They're still gonna keep him just to have him on the roster and be behind those guys. And then Aurora Royerboat has also had some flashes, so they probably carry five D tackles. And it'd just be very intriguing to see how everything kind of shakes because I feel definitely the positions I'm very curious the most are defensive line in general between the Sam linebackers. You have the edge depth guys, a whole bunch of young guys fighting for spots. Defensive line, it's like not too much of a question, but more so how much does the rotation shake out between? Because I am very curious how Aurora will look just as a rotational pass rusher. Maybe they get creative and you can have a third down package of him and Armstead next to each other, or is it just gonna be him swapping up for Armstead? I don't know how it'll look yet. But yeah, I feel it's not much of in the past where it's like because the roster was so up for grabs, players were kind of fighting for spots. Now it's just really like the last 4 or 5 spots that are in contention, and it probably even less than that. So with training camp being over, which is still crazy to say, we're just ready for week one. I'm ready to boo a certain quarterback. Um, ready to hit him with a certain AEW chant.
Oh
You
man.
sick, you sick. But yeah, I feel like that's mostly it in terms of breaking down the roster, what we think will happen. Um, it really just, who stays on the practice squad, probably the Trammels and the Tim Jones. One of the defensive ends that don't make it is like
Brian
Dorsey and Brian
Brian
Thomas.
Thomas Jr. Yeah.
Probably hopefully get some more O-line on there, and then probably Quentin Morris is like a call-up tight end. So,
Yeah. Like he kind of was last year. I think it'll be the same.
and I guess not really surprised, but bye Hunter Long. I don't think he's making the roster, considering he was barely tight end. He was tight end 3 at the end of the year last year, and now they draft and the tight end 2 from last year was tight end 4 currently. So, but yeah, I think that's mostly it in terms of the room. So I'm just ready for week one. We really talk like matchups and try to break things down, just see how the team plays. We've got one preseason game left. I don't think the Stars will play at all, which I don't like. I understand why. I feel like there's a to both sides. Like I see the coin because you want to have your starters 100% healthy for week one, but you also want to make sure week one they don't come out the gate too awkward and just now without chemistry, which granted, it's a team coming into their second season under Colin. So they'll know more of the playbook compared to week one, where even though they won mostly handily versus the Panthers, it still wasn't like a perfect offensive execution, which a win is a win. So it was a double-digit win. You're fine taking that. I just I'm curious, will it look a little bit choppy still because just guys haven't gotten, you know, a ton of reps together, or will their experience from last year kind of outweigh that? Because most of the starters are coming back. I mean, the only new players, like really new on offense, will be Chris Rodriguez and Pregnon. Between that, everybody else is, I guess, Bork, like some of the rookie tight ends who they'll probably play, but I don't think you're gonna throw the rookie tight end in the fire that much week one. So I'm just very curious to see how the offensive operation will look. Like, will it be a little bit choppy even for the first couple drives until they get their feet wet, or just will the Cohen edge and game planning help compensate for that? So
We never really started
who knows?
fast. We never really started fast last year either. There's a lot of games where we picked it up in the second and third quarter as well.
Yeah, I'm
So
not
I could totally
expecting it
see
to
that.
be a fast. Even though everyone wants a fast start coming back, I'm not expecting it to be a fast start. So.
That's closer to whenever we get to the game anyway. It's so funny because YouTube has given me a lot of condensed games from the end of last season for the Jaguars. So it is very crazy how we always kind of like started slow, even first and second half of the season. And then like second and third quarter, that's when everybody kind of like wakes the fuck
And
up and
just
they
turn
make some
up.
plays.
I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like it's also just, when you're good at game planning, you figure out, okay, these are what we want to attack, how we attack them, bada bing, bada boom. So, and just they can start slow, start fast, just get a win and make it last.
Right. I mean, that's the goal for this year because consistency.
Although,
We
if you
haven't
if
made
you
the
if you wouldn't
playoffs.
mind just, blowing out a certain quarterback and making him look really bad, I wouldn't mind. Camp at camp if you have one game, just like come out week one. exotic blitz first snap of the game. Like just throw the kitchen sink at, bro. I don't care. Use your entire playbook.
They don't have to use their entire playbook to beat Deshaun Watson,
So I need to
though. He said, I need him to suffer.
I we're gonna send you someplace you don't want to go. He said, I'm fine with we're not gonna send him to Guantanamo. We're gonna send you to Jerusalem.
Jerusalem. Uh, Other than that, I think that's it for the day. I mean, we'll react more whenever the roster comes out. We get closer to week one
Yeah,
to see
the
how we
official
feel.
roster. I mean, I
There,
don't think it'll be too much different because we never miss on any predictions ever when it comes to the team
oh,
or the NFL
never,
predictions ever. We know the
never.
exact 53-man roster already. We don't need to break anything. Just oh,
Exactly. We'll do an official Jagged Edge post right after the final preseason game. We'll have like a draft that we say we're like a 53-man roster on Elon's Hell site, and then we'll see how many we get right. This is where we make a trade for a superstar for no reason too, after we do the 53-man prediction. But you
it's
know,
just and Jeffrey Simmons has requested a trade, and I wish,
uh,
God, I wish.
specifically to Jacksonville. Oh man, what a guy. I'm just
Just so
kidding.
he wants to try to get back to the Quinn Allen in practice.
Yeah. That's all he wants is just to beat up Liquid Allen. Oh man.
But
Well, Javal, you got
I guess
anything
that's
else besides the last preseason game, besides AEW at the end of the week? Is there anything else that is interesting to talk about?
I watched Fulham play versus Chelsea. I didn't expect them to win. Hopefully, I was hoping for a draw. It was a 3-2 match, so they didn't win, but they didn't get blown out.
I did see
So,
that Arbeloa is
Fulham.
like high press, high intensity in the first game. So that's the identity for Fulham this year. So they're going to be fun to watch if they have a lot of 4 or 5 goal games where they're trying to go for the win. I do appreciate
Yeah, I
that.
mean, I was just curious to see how they look with the new manager, just especially because I think defense is what needed the most help. And it's kind of been a lot of things I feel like Fulham fans have been complaining about. But I mean, hey, our new striker scored in his first game debut, so that's a good sign. I'll give it that. Galazo Garcia, greatest nickname of all time. Shout out Chris for giving that nickname. Um, and then I feel just obviously with any sports season, you have to really get into a rhythm to see how a team will look. So a team will not look its best until mid-season, barring injuries. So, I'm not. I mean, they lost to one of the big six clubs by 1 goal. I'm not panicking. I'm obviously not thrilled, but
It's a
it
week to
happens.
week league. It's a marathon, not a sprint, especially the Premier League, where the work of your 38 match week season will like matter at the end. It's not like a playoff or whatever. So you have to like catch it up eventually. And speaking of the Premier League, my Newcastle United under our new manager, Matthias Jaisla, we unfairly got a 2-2 draw against Liverpool. I thought we were the better side. They kind of fluky penalty at the end, but it is what it is at the point. I would have asked for the penalty too if it happened to Newcastle, so I can't really complain all too much. But I thought there's a lot of promise and signs for Newcastle in their first match under a new manager, a bunch of new signings. It didn't even end there because we just signed Nico Gonzalez from Manchester City, who was basically Rodri, who was the player at the tournament for the World Cup's replacement. But then the new manager since Pep left, Enzo Maresca, wants Enzo Fernandez extremely badly, the most hated man in England.
Bro, no, it was so funny. Every single time Enzo touched the pitch, they were booing the shit out. Oh my gosh, it was funny.
Yeah, so yeah, apparently Enzo really wants him, which is why they're trying to sell funds. Like they sold Savinho to Tottenham. They sold and Omar Marmoush to Tottenham. They sold Nico Gonzalez to Newcastle. So they really, really want to get the money. Probably at deadline day, they probably are going to sign Enzo Fernandez because this is how always the transfer window works out. But it feels like
El
Matthias Jaisla.
Racismo?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the nasty racist Enzo. You're right. But for Newcastle sense, a lot of people had them in a relegation scrap, but it looks like after one game against, perennial Champions League spot Liverpool, that we can hold our own and we'll be fine. If we even just finish mid-table, I'm okay, but a European spot would be fantastic. But I did like what I see from Newcastle. Very fast attack. They just got to get solid in the back, kind of like Fulham. So I think our midfield is set with the signing of Nico. I would love another creative midfielder or another right winger, but that's just like cherry on top. We can get at least one more midfielder in that can create assists and goals before the end of the window.
Nope. I guess we'll see how this Prem goes and the NFL goes. So good talking to you, my friend. I
Yeah.
just before I gotta have one more time. So funny, bro.
All right, let's
All
go
right,
eat.
yeah.
Let's get something to eat. We'll talk some more whenever we have our official 53-man roster, and hopefully no weird shit happens with the Jaguars going on. But Javal, have a wonderful rest of your day. Like, subscribe. Y'all gym yet? Support the brand for
Thank you, my
Javal
friend.
for sure. And you have a wonderful.
Week one.
It's coming
Sean,
soon.
you're getting ass booed.
Have a good rest of your day, Javal.